A big story around Interpol this week. The function of the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, is to allow global operation, the sharing of criminal intelligence, data, the DNA profiles of fugitives, missing people, or for activating arrest warrants for the world's most wanted offenders. Its motto, connecting people for a safer world. Neutrality is one of its core principles. Allegations emerging this week that Russia and the Kremlin is abusing the system by targeting opponents of Putin, issuing red notice alerts requesting that all 196 member states locate and arrest dissidents using fabricated criminal allegations. An insider at Interpol has leaked thousands of documents to the French investigative site Disclose and to the BBC, alleging both Russia is misusing the system and also that although Interpol has extra scrutiny and checks in place since 2022, since after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, those checks have been weakened. It's having a devastating impact on the lives of those who fled Russia. This is the account of Igor Pestrikov. He fled to France. He's a Russian businessman with a Ukrainian wife. He feared he was on a red notice, so he called Interpol, who confirmed he was. This is what he told the BBC's investigation.
When you're hit with a red notice, your life changes completely. You have two options. Go to the police and say, I'm in the Interpol system, and you'll definitely be arrested and go to jail. Or you don't turn yourself in, but then you can't rent an apartment. Bank accounts, of course, everything is blocked. They can stop you at any moment, ask for documents, and you'll end up in jail. It's better not to live with children or family because they can break into your house at any moment. That's why you're like a cornered rat.
Like a cornered rat. Well, Igor complained to Interpol's Complaints Commission and his case was eventually overturned after 2 years on the most wanted list. It was deemed that Russia provided, quote, inadequate explanation for his warrant. Let's bring in Sandra Grossman, international lawyer, expert on Interpol matters, particularly on the abuse of red notices by authoritarian regimes, and founding partner at Grossman, Young and Hammond Law Firm. Welcome to France 24, Sandra. Thank you for speaking to me tonight.
Having me.
Thank
you for having me.
I get the sense, Sandra, that it boils into three areas: the abuse by Russia of the system, the effect it's having on innocent people, how effective Interpol then is at stopping it, and to the extent to which it's falling short. Now, we just heard the case of Igor a moment ago. Let's start on that attempted use of Interpol as a political weapon by Russia. You've documented cases over a number of years now. Tell us how similar they are in theme.
Sure. No, it's an incredibly relevant issue these days. And while you're absolutely right that on the one hand, Interpol plays a critical and legitimate law enforcement function, the fact is that crime has been globalized. It goes across borders. And so countries need an international police organization that can help them coordinate on how to track down fugitives. The issue with Interpol is that it's far too easy for autocratic nations like Russia and many others, and even some democratic states, to go after individuals that for one reason or another have fallen out of favor with the government, whether it be because they're dissidents, journalists, whistleblowers, or even private business people who have been who for some reason have been victimized through corruption. What happens is they fall out of favor with the government, and then criminal charges are alleged, an arrest warrant is issued, and that arrest warrant may be legitimate or it may not be. But what happens is, when the arrest warrant is communicated to Interpol headquarters, it becomes available to the 196 member states. And Igor was absolutely correct that once you're on that red notice list, it's incredibly difficult to get off of it. It takes a long time. And additionally, the effects are immediate, whether it's banking, travel, reputational, it's immediate. So it's for victims of Interpol abuse, it's an incredibly difficult challenge.
So, as you mentioned, Interpol is not a global force in itself. The individual sovereignty of nation states take precedent. But in effect, if you're on a red list, does that nation state more often than not adhere to it? For example, if it comes from Russia and the US have to deal with it, can they just ignore it based on the origin of information?
Sure, it's a good question. So each nation is able to handle red notice publications as they see fit according to their own laws, policies, and regulations. So a red notice in and of itself is not actually an international arrest warrant. What it is, it's a request by one Interpol member state to be on the lookout for an individual that's either wanted to serve a criminal sentence or for prosecution. But here in the United States, for example, red notices do not meet the minimum probable cause requirements needed to arrest someone. That said, what the dynamic that we see here in the United States is that even though red notices do not lead in normal circumstances to extradition requests, immigration authorities take red notices and look at them as a way to target individuals that are in the United States. So it becomes a problem for these individuals through the US immigration system in the context of deportation proceedings rather than extradition proceedings. But yes, each country can handle red notices as they see fit according to their own laws and regulations.
To try and work out how many people are like Igor, looking at the list is very hard to know. Obviously, it's not given out by Interpol. But do you have an idea of how many we're talking about? Russia has topped the list of the most complained about requests. Do we have any idea of the past decades? Is it hundreds? Could it be thousands of people in that situation?
Look, it's a good question. And one of the reasons that Interpol is so criticized is that even though it has made some commendable efforts over the last few years to increase in transparency, there's still much that remains to be done. Now, that said, we do have some sense of statistics. So every year, over the last few years, Interpol issues the CCF, the Commission for Control of Interpol's Files. This is this sort of semi-independent body that receives requests for deletion of red notices from individuals. I know that for their 2024 report, Interpol received approximately 2,500 requests for deletion of red notices. Of them, under 300 of them, and this was after they decided whether these cases were admissible or not, and in some of the red notice cases, the countries themselves pulled back the red notice. But of the admissible requests, about 300 of them were decided that they should be deleted. So that gives you a sense of Interpol statistics. Now, I can tell you here in the United States, the issue of bogus red notices targeting dissidents and individuals like what I mentioned is far broader than that. We have, a practice that focuses on Interpol abuse, and we've had hundreds of these cases just ourselves over the last 10 years. So it's a worldwide global problem.
It raises another question, which your clarity and thought on this would be very interesting to hear. So if it's argued that a case is politically motivated, Interpol has a complaint system, an independent internal watchdog called the Commission for Control of Interpol's Files, the CCF. Now, according to this investigation by the two networks, in the past decade, there were 700 complaints relating to Russia. 400 of them then had their red notices overturned, similar to what you were saying with the figures you gave. There were more complaints about Russia than anywhere else, as I mentioned. Does that say to you the complaint system is working, Sandra, or does it say that the initial checks are just not anywhere near tight enough?
Look, it's a little bit of both. On the one hand, Interpol, it needs to be recognized, especially under the previous Secretary General of Interpol, there were significant reforms made, both at the General Secretariat and with the Commission for Control of Interpol's Files, that led to improvements in the complaint mechanism. And the importance of this mechanism cannot be understated. It's really the only way that individuals can fight back against these very serious allegations that are made by state members of Interpol. So on the one hand, you do have some increased accountability, some increased transparency in the fact that they're issuing more statistics on Interpol abuse. We know which are the countries that sort of most notoriously abuse Interpol's otherwise legitimate law enforcement functions, but so much more needs to be done. One of the biggest problems that I hear and see on the daily from my clients is that you really can't do anything about being the target of a red notice until it's basically too late. So most people don't know that they have a red notice issued against them. It's usually a surprise. They're stopped while crossing an international border or checking into a hotel. And then at that point, you can access this mechanism through the CCF where you file a complaint and you introduce your narrative explaining that the criminal allegations against you are pretextual, right? And that you are the target of a political persecution, like in the case of Igor and so many others. The issue is that after that, you wait about a month for admissibility from Interpol. And then according to Interpol statute, it's supposed to take 9 months in order to get a decision on your deletion requests. But because of tremendous backlogs, both at Interpol and because of countries that are increasingly getting better at abusing Interpol systems, it now can take a year and a half, 2 years in order to get a decision. And in the meantime, if you're in the United States, you're placed in deportation proceedings, you're denied bond by an immigration judge. So it's an intractable, lengthy problem.
Which explains Igor's case times however many, that if you are waiting, you're outside of the system. He described it as like living like a rat. You're waiting, you're feeling like you're cornered. And like you said at the start, this is not to negate the incredible success of Interpol, the coordination, drug traffickers, some of the most serious crimes on the planet that people have been caught using this system. But it's a system that clearly is, you've talked about, open to attempts of abuse, given the nature of some of the member states involved. Is there a better way this could work? Are there ways that actually you've put, your colleagues and others have suggested, there needs to be a better system, what that better system could be?
Absolutely, there's a better way. And, again, we have to recognize that Interpol is making efforts, but so much more could be done both within the organization and then externally by member states who really should be utilizing their resources and their ability to influence Interpol policies and procedures through their memberships by requiring the organization to, I would say, number one, dedicate additional resources to trying to prevent Interpol abuse. There should be, the commission that receives these requests for deletion, they themselves have noted the incredible rise of autocratic states to use Interpol for illegitimate purposes. So number one, there should be significantly more resources available to the CCF. Right now, there's 5 members that review requests for deletion. I don't know why there can't be 3, 4, 5 times that amount to make sure that people get justice sooner rather than later. Additionally, there's legislation here in the United States that was passed a few years ago. It's limited legislation, but there really should be better reporting on Interpol abuse in countries like the United States and other countries as well. The State Department's human rights reports track Interpol abuse. They need to do a lot better of a job so that we can all understand the breadth of the problem.
Well, we've got a statement from Interpol which disputes the investigation, says its constitutional obligation to remain, quote, neutral, that it's untrue. It says it prioritised police cooperation over abuse of the system and says it strengthened safeguards to prevent misuse. But they wouldn't comment on details of whether the safeguards against Russia had been lifted. Thank you for now. Really good to talk to you tonight, Sandra. Thank you for your time. Sandra Grossman, international lawyer, expert on Interpol matters, and as I say, Red Notices particularly. Thank you.